several members of the Cleveland Cavaliers coaching staff could be on the move. We know one already is. What does it mean for the development of this team that Koby Altman covets so much? We'll talk about it coming up on the next episode of Courtside with the Cavs on SI. What's going on, Cavs fans? Appreciate you hanging out with us. It's Spencer German and Spencer Davies, of course, back with you with another episode of Courtside with the Cavs on SI. Spence has been enjoying even more rounds of golf in his offseason. I have been enjoying some time at home with my son. So it's been a couple good weeks. Obviously, still sort of collecting ourselves from the fact that the Cavaliers lost and nobody saw it coming. But in the meantime, Spence, we had listen, the Pacers, for as disappointing as it was that they beat the Cavs, they are on this ungodly run right now. Like it is crazy, this stretch that they put together. Tyrese Halliburton, we were texting about this last night. The idea that he is already like third all time in like game winning or tying shots in the final like 5 seconds of a game or whatever the hell the stat was. And I kind of threw out there like he's got to be the only player in NBA history to have a game-winning or game-tying shot in the final, like, 3 seconds of a game in every round of the same playoffs. Like, he's done it at least once every round of the same playoffs. Just crazy. Again, I don't know that this, like, makes Cavs fans feel whole. Like, they want to see their team win. I get that. But I do think, like, you got to give a lot of credit to this Pacers team for finding ways to win. I mean, their first lead of the game last night was with 0.3 seconds left. That's insane.
It makes the conversations that we've been having justified about how there's just a team of destiny feel to them.
Yeah.
And it's not just Halliburton. The funny thing is, like, Hallie didn't even have that good of a game. He wasn't on point as much as he's been. I know he shot well.
Yeah.
But again, because of his play style, he doesn't take too many shots. The guys who just continued to keep them in it when they were down by 11, down by 14, the threes that were made by guys like Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard with the step back on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander down 6 with 2 minutes left. Miles Turner with the step
hit a
back,
couple big threes. Yeah,
exactly. Turner off of the glass on a shake over to the left, and there's
Obi Toppin
so many
hit,
more.
What, 5 threes last night?
Yes,
unreal.
Yes. So no one talks about them, but this is the essence of team that I'm trying to get across, and I think that there's not one particular style that just works and that's what you build off of. I think that there are just multiple different ways to win. And sorry to say this, guys, but the Thunder were the more gritty and the more physical team last night, and they lost. You know why?
Yeah.
Because the Pacers made shots. That's why. You got to be able to take advantage of the 24 turnovers that you create. You've got to be able to put the ball in the basket and answer when threes are going down. Thunder were doing the trade game there in the end of the third, and that's when I kind of leaned over to my brother, and I was like, they haven't really taken advantage of the miscues that they've forced because OKC was like a pack of hyena out there, just stripping the ball. They forced 19 turnovers in the first half. Alex Caruso, I can't say enough about this guy. The way that he's just he bats the ball out. He's poking the ball from behind. He's always getting to the entry pass before it gets to the offense. He's just so good at that. Lou Dort, can we talk enough about how brutally strong that guy is? Andrew Nembhard tried to spin on him, and Lou did not move a muscle. He just went like this, and I think Nembhard literally bounced off of him. And I was like, he is chiseled. This dude is made of rock. So you have those types of defenders. As Isaiah Hartenstein had a good game last night. These guys are big, and they're built like football players, and that's why they've been so good. However, that does not matter if you face a team that consistently makes shots at the rate that they do, and It's not even a superstar-led team that people like to keep talking about and debating over. It's just a team that knows to hit shots, timely shots when they do. Even we didn't even mention Pascal Siakam blocking SGA and then going the other way and having a nice, transition opportunity. Sorry, I know I'm long-winded here, but I was texting you last night. I could not wait to rant about this because you're telling me you watched that game. You watch the Knicks game 1, you watch Cavs game 2, and you watch the Bucks game 5, and you're telling me that there's not some weird crap going on with that squad right now, and you want to force wholesale huge changes because of what's going on in Indiana, then I think you're nuts. I don't think it requires huge changes for Cleveland just because there's some crazy-ass stuff going on with the Pacers.
There is something spiritually feeling about this, like the way that they've done this and how it's just always them. They always come up roses, even when even when in a game where they're not leading until the final 0.3 seconds. First, I want to say, who are the people that voted Tyrese Haliburton overrated? Those players need to reveal themselves. Second, who are the people that said they don't want to watch this NBA Finals because they thought it was too small markets and nobody cares? Because that was exciting basketball last night, even if it didn't really happen until the late in the fourth quarter when you saw the comeback happening. Like, that was exciting basketball. That was cinema. And then the other two things I was going to say, Spence, and you alluded to one of them. I think that game was a microcosm of it highlighted for me, and I think for everybody, illuminated what the most important things in the playoffs are for teams. One of them, like you said, is shot making and just being able to knock down those shots, having enough options to knock down those shots. And like we pointed out, it was Turner making big shots in a big spot. It was Obi Toppin, on a night where guys like Nembhard, who's been so good, wasn't at his best, where Haliburton wasn't at his best. You didn't have those guys knocking down all the clutch shots or the big shots early on, and then they found a way at the end. Other guys stepped up. It's about that depth that the Cavaliers, by the way, have, but it's about that depth also contributing those key moments. And that is so important. And then the other part I think too is we saw in that game the importance of the playoff experience, right? We talk so much about that, how much that matters, but you have a team like the Thunder who have largely been untested throughout this playoffs. Let's just be honest. They have boat raced a lot of the teams that they've played. They got pushed a little bit in some of these series, but but they generally were able to kind of handle their business. And people felt comfortable in believing that they were going to win every step of the way because they're that good. The Pacers, though, how many critical moments have they been in at this point, this postseason and frankly last postseason, especially in that Knicks series? They are battle tested, and you saw a Thunder team that I think they proved yesterday they're the better team in this series, because they dominated for most of that game. But when things got tight, when the game got late and you needed guys to make plays, which was the team that was coming up green or coming up roses? It was the Pacers. It was the Pacers who were able to make those clutch shots and in those big spots, and they continued to just kind of fight. They were never out of it. Different guys stepping up in different moments. I those are the two most pivotal things that I learned, not even learned because I knew that about the postseason, but that I think were highlighted last night. And those are the things that I think become important as we kind of turn the conversation to the Cavs. Those are the things that I think they need to get over that hump this time of year. Is in those clutch moments, they blew their clutch moment, right? Pacers pulled off this crazy, miraculous comeback. The inbound play that got turned over, all those things. You got to be able to handle your business in those spots. And frankly, you just need more guys to be able to make their shots and contribute. And that's the conversation and the fight that they're kind of having internally this offseason is how do you get to that point, right? How do you get to a point where you are the Indiana in the situation and you're able to, in those moments on that stage, come up victorious, essentially.
I agree with the majority of what you said, except that OKC wasn't tested. That Denver series was absolutely a test.
True. That's true. They got tested in the Denver series. I did, as I was saying that, I was that did go 7 games in my head. I was they probably did get tested to an extent. But I thought that's what really kind of showed me that they were ready for the final stage, because the Nuggets are one of those teams that has been there and obviously won the title. Yeah. Here's maybe the better way to put it. The Pacers have been tested more in those spots specifically. We're the Thunder are still a younger team that I think in most years, like if the Thunder weren't as deep as they were, we'd be saying like SGA and Chet Holmgren, like they still got to learn, like they still got to develop. They haven't quite had the experience yet. But like because they're so deep, we give them a chance against anybody. I think the Pacers have just played in more of those moments the last couple years where they, I think, are better equipped in that spot to handle it. And I think that showed last night. Not to say the Thunder can't. I just think we saw like in that spot the playoff experience for the Pacers emerged at the perfect time as it has throughout most of this postseason.
Well, Indy is always down. They're down in a lot of these games, so they've been there, done that. They haven't played too much with posterity? Is that the word? Like if they're when they're up, how have we seen them play when they're up for like a majority of the game, other than obviously
game one against the Cavs. Game one against the Cavs.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like game one against the Cavs,
game four,
game four that they absolutely floored the Cleveland Cavaliers. I was at that game, but that's what I mean. Like they have had every situation possible, and they're prepared for it, and they are going to play 48. And you have to be prepared to play 48 minutes. Like Spence, like we haven't even gotten just down to the basics here. Indy turned the ball over 24 times. The Thunder turned the ball over 6 times. Any formula you look at in that tells you OKC should be winning by a mile. But again, going back to my original point, the Thunder could not take advantage of the turnovers that they created because Indy's transition defense was good, and two, OKC just flat out missed those opportunities to turn, the breaks into some sort of scoring, and that's gonna hurt. And when you can't offensively keep up with that, if the Pacers won game one like that, imagine when the Pacers don't turn the ball over 24 times. Imagine when
Halliburton plays better.
Exactly. I hope that shifted a lot of people's mindsets in terms of how they view this Pacers team, because I've been kind of trying to scream it from the rooftops after that Cavs series, and maybe I should have been trying to scream it from the rooftops after the Milwaukee series. They're just so mentally built, and also just their execution is out of this world right now. And yes, it's okay to say they are shooting above expectation, but this is longer than just a week 2 sample size. This is a month now, a month and a half of what they've been doing in the postseason.
Yeah, I think there was something. I thought Scott Van Pelt was great last night because he sat down with Tyrese Halliburton and flat out said, like, I had a whole sheet of notes ready to talk about why the Thunder are just too good and all this different stuff, and I had nothing written down about the Pacers. And now here you are sitting next to me talking about this game. I thought that was a pretty telling moment in terms of like how everyone feels this series is going to go, how everyone thought that game was going to go last night, and how the Pacers are just like this cockroach that you can't kill. So
I am laughing though, just real quick. Are
you talking about the comment section?
No. I was laughing because watching back most of these Halliburton game winners, except for the one against Milwaukee, they were awful possessions. Just awful.
He's a killer. He's a stone cold killer.
And this is
Tyrese Halliburton.
You have to balance out between analytics and feel for the game, because that was not a good shot.
That's a real thing.
I'm sorry. Like I'm gonna go Paul George.
The game tire against the Knicks.
Remember the Damian Lillard Paul George thing?
The game tire against the Knicks was a terrible shot, and it bounced so high. It was in the rafters of MSG and came back down. Like that was a stupid shot.
Right. No, it was an awful shot. But here's the thing. This is when analytics do not win out. This is when sheer will and the human nature of the game wins out. So you have to have a good balance of that and a good feel for that. And, Halliburton got to his spot, I guess, if 20 feet is your spot inside the 3-point arc and it's being contested. I mean, he had to shoot it because it was contested and it was obviously going to get contested. But these were not generated. These were just willing your team to a win. And he's already on the level of a Reggie Miller if you look at some of these graphics, and they continue to defy the odds. But obviously we talked 16 minutes for Pacers Thunder game one just because obviously had to get that out of the way, but we do have Cavs stuff to talk about.
No, I think this is a good place to transition to that because stubborn and resilient. I want to be clear. I'm not laughing at your comments as much as I'm laughing at like you're fired up this morning. You have a lot to say, and that's fine. We appreciate the passion. But the one comment I want to throw in here, as we were talking about the Pacers and Thunder, is that he says stubborn and resilient is one of our commenters, by the way. He says Pacers and Thunder are so far ahead of the Cavs. Major moves must be made if Cavs are serious about competing for a title. And what I think is interesting about that, Spence, and where I want to take this conversation next is as we think about how that Pacers series went, you're eliminated in 5, but there's context, right? Evan Mobley was dealing with something, and he looked better as the series went on, but obviously the ankle was still there. We know DeAndre Hunter was out for a game. He was injured with the thumb, and we know DG was out for the until the final couple games of that series because they needed him, and he was still hindered by the toe injury. So understand that context. As you watched that game last night, how far off do you think the Cavaliers are from like the Pacers and the Thunder? Like how far off do you think they are from having a roster of guys that like no matter what time of the game it is, no matter what the score is, you're going to get the shot making. Those like the entire team's just going to be there to support you, lift you up, step up, and be ready in those key moments like I highlighted. To finish off games or pull off a miraculous comeback. How close do you think they are to these two teams as we think about the offseason and what they need to do?
I don't think they're that far off skill-wise. I still think that they just need to make some marginal moves. And I'm being quite frank with you because I believe in the development of Darius Garland and I believe in the development of Evan Mobley. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel. And I think that it also takes time. And I'm not going to use the examples that Kobe used when we were talking to him end of season because we called those kind of bogus. But I think it's just a natural progression. And the other thing I think that teams can't get tied up into, and this is a mistake that a lot of front offices make, is they watch these teams and they're like, we have to build our team just like that. No, there is more variety than there's been in quite some time now. There's not just one way to win. If you want to look at the track record of the finals competitors and the finals winners of the last 5-6 years, they have alternated. There is no longer this superstar big three, and that's what we pay attention to. No, it's depth, it's playing fast, and it's having strength. So I think you have to develop those things over time when you have a young team, and you obviously have Donovan Mitchell leading that charge. But Evan Mobley and Darius Garland's growth is what's going to lead to that. And I think having a guy like a Max Strus on your team is critical. You know, like I think giving DeAndre Hunter a year and then training camp with the team is going to really be helpful as well. But at the end of the day, dude, it's also about making shots as we get back to the regular point. It is about making shots. They were 20% on their threes or something like that in that series. So that's an anomaly. I'm sorry. That's an anomaly. And that's kind of fact to me. And I know that they weren't physically ready for the endurance of a Pacers kind of flow and their pace, but it's just facts. You got to make open shots. You got to make the shots that you generate, man.
Yeah, I think that's well said. What was it? Miles Turner made the comment after the last series against the Knicks, like, the big three era is dead and we're just fueled by good old fashioned like team camaraderie and friendship or something like that. Like it was like a funny quote. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. Like it's no longer just get the 3 best players that are available in free agency and pair them together or make a big trade for the stars, the big star in the league and bring a couple other guys in and have no depth. You have to have depth. You have to be able to rely on, top to bottom, like 1 through 8, 1 through 9, 1 through 10 in some respects on these rosters, which is what Kenny Atkinson tried to establish during the season. And obviously in the playoffs, the Pacers kind of exposed the Cavs a little bit. And that's, to your point, like, I think the Cavaliers are closer to these teams than what we're going to give them, what many are going to give them credit for because they lost the Pacers in 5 games, right? And people will forget the context of the injuries and all those things. I think right now what's critical for Koby Altman is like figuring out, because he has pieces that I think can compete with those teams. It's about figuring out the right fit of guys around those guys to put you over the top and make it even like level that playing field. And that's where being a good GM, like we're gonna learn a lot about Koby Altman in that regard, because if you good GMs are gonna figure out like, okay, here's a really simple example of that, right? if they're only going to keep one of Sam Merrill and Ty Jerome, they're going to have to decide, like, which one of these guys on that stage is, like, critical to our success. Is it the guy that's, like, the sharpshooting 3-point guy, or is it the guy that's, like, our backup point guard was a stone cold killer during the season and we believe, like, it was just an anomaly that he played in that game? Those critical decisions, like the nitpick, getting nitpicky, if you will, with, like, who fits with the team and what you're trying to sort of build around your Donovan Mitchells and your Evan Mobleys, that's the stuff that ultimately puts them over the top. But no, I don't think it has to be like you got to start all over and build like the Pacers and try to copy everything that they do, because I think there's already elements of this team that will allow you to do that. You got punched in the mouth. Part of that is part of that comes into the equation too. How do you change the way you do things if you're Kenny Atkinson to prepare for a series where the Pacers are going to try to run you up and down the floor? So there's different pieces to this. But yes, like I think there's enough talent on this team that it's just about like finding the right fit around the key guys that you're thinking about. And we've talked about this already, and we'll talk about it again coming up when we talk about some potential trade scenarios that are going to work to help you level that playing field just a little bit more with those two teams. But I don't think they're far off either. I agree with you.
Stubborn and resilient. Thank you for the participation, man. You've been carrying the comment section
awesome
here.
He has.
I appreciate that. And I saw the Locked On Cavs comment too, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I don't know. I didn't know if he meant you or me, because I was on this week. I was on yesterday with Danny. So
shoot!
I didn't know if he meant you or me. But either way, what I'll say, Spence, is you probably were better than me because you definitely know basketball from a different level, at a different level than I do. But
stick to OTAs there, kid.
But I this is why I love working with Spence, though, because like he has that coach's eye in a sense, and you teach me things all the time, which is awesome. But he said he means me. I meant Spencito. But listen, anytime I think Spence is on, anytime I'm on, I really try to bring the heat. I try to bring some good stuff to that table, onto the table with Danny, and I love Danny. I think Spence, the same can be said for you, man. And I feel like if you went back and watched my appearances with Danny and your appearances with Danny, yours are probably better 10 times out of 10. So I'm just going to say that now.
I've brain farted quite a few times on Danny's podcast, honestly. The best one I did was when I was in Las Vegas. Go figure.
Oh yeah. Well, I can understand why that happened. So before we do want to talk about Jordan Ott becoming the Sunset coach and potential other changes coming up. But because we were talking about like changes with the roster, I want to stay here for a moment, Spence, because I threw out an idea that we sort of concocted together. You put it into the trade machine and found a way to make it work. I sort of threw the idea out there in the beginning, and we did talk. Like, I do want to add some context. Like, this wasn't like this has to be the trade. Like, it was. We said like there's different monikums of what this could look like. But
this also wasn't my idea, by the way. I'm putting that out there, and that's also why I didn't retweet it, because I didn't want to get the heat.
Yeah, no, I got you. No, you're fine. I didn't get that much heat. It wasn't that bad, and I think the comments are pretty respectful. I even commented back a couple of times and said, like, I think you could ask for a little bit more. But you tried in the trade machine. Darius, well, here, let me ask you this. How do you feel about somebody like Kobe White as a fit for this Cavaliers team? If that was something that if that's a player that the Cavs would try to pursue?
Definitely more downhill aggressive trying to score than set up. He's obviously somebody that when he gets on fire, he's really hard to stop when he does those pull-up transition threes and really just kind of gets it going, goes into the teeth of the defense and tries to get to the free throw line. He is an aggressive player, and I like Kobe White a lot. It's you change your settings again. Stop doing that mid-show.
Sorry, you got me?
Yes, stop doing that mid-show, Spence. I'm going to come over there and slap you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but I think a lot. I think the world of Kobe White, to be honest. He's going to get paid big time. He's going to be in the last year of his rookie deal. Or is it rookie deal? I don't know how many years.
I think he's still on his
rookie year because he was drafted in 21, I think, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, but yeah, no, I think the world of it. I think he's a really good player. I don't. Let's just get to the deal because you won.
No, yeah, that's fine. What I was going to say was hearing you talk about this again. Part of the reason I don't know if it's a perfect fit, as we talk about fit, is because, like you said, he's not as much of a distributor as like what DG I think can be when he needs to be. And I do think like adding somebody who is going to want the ball in his hands more when we're talking about like, no, Evan needs more touches and obviously Donovan's going to get his. I don't know if that's a perfect scenario for this Cavs team, but I really like Kobe White the same way you do. And if you're thinking about like the math on how do we get below the second apron, but still know you're going to have to pay him down the line here because he's, like you said, he's going to be due up for a big contract. I sort of thought like, what if you did like a Darius Garland, Kobe White deal where where the Bulls had to throw a little bit more and obviously to make the deal happen because of the finances of it, but also because Darius Garland is a proven all-star caliber player at this point. And you sort of concocted Darius Garland for Kobe White and Zach Collins. Now, I don't think straight up that deal would be enough for the Cavs because as we've talked about, Spence, you're not just trading Darius or Jared Allen for that matter just to trade them, right? Like you're not doing that just to do it. But you brought up Matas as a guy that if they threw him in, okay, now we're talking because you're getting a guy that can do something a little bit different for you, and he's super young, high ceiling. Cavs love developmental guys. They wanted to be able to develop this roster, and that would be the perfect kind of player to get back in that. But what were your overall thoughts as you sort of put that together? Just taking my idea and sort of spitballing it into the trade machine.
Well, I was thinking about, everyone talks about the backup center and someone's going to need to play the 5 because Evan can't play it for, 35 minutes. He can play it for 20, but can he play it for the whole game? I was thinking Zach Collins just because that's an irritant of a player.
For sure.
He is a great shot-altering center. He gets rebounds, and he's not afraid to mix it up with people. In fact, he usually starts a bunch of stuff. So if you want a guy that's a little rough around the edges, Zach Collins is the guy that you want on your squad. So that was just me trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone when you gave it to me. And I think draft capital would have to be involved in a deal like that, especially knowing that Kobe will be due a payday, as we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And, that would be interesting to see if you could get, Matas thrown in there, but I doubt they would do that because I feel like Chicago views him as
for sure
quite a chip on their squad. So, but yeah, it's interesting to me, Spence, too. I don't think we've really touched on this part of Darius Garland and Jared Allen, and I know that Jarrett could possibly be gone. Even Darius is a little bit more on the open market than he's been in terms of the front office listening to offers and stuff. This doesn't mean they're actively looking, but just being more open-minded and not so foot down. We're not going to get rid of these guys. I am so curious from a Cleveland fan perspective, and just kind of looking at the landscape of the league. Why is it that fans outside of this city and media outside of this city value Darius Garland as the all-star that he is? Why is it that fans outside of this city and outside of this circle see that Jared Allen is one of the best centers in the NBA? Why is it that the local following don't appreciate them enough, I guess?
Can I give you like the 2 simple answers? One, because they haven't seen those guys do it in the playoffs is the easy answer.
Okay.
Like Jarrett got hurt last year. This year he was kind of a non-factor towards especially the tail end of that Pacers series.
Mm-hmm.
Darius has had the bad injury luck where he hasn't been able to really perform on that stage yet, and so I think fans are tainted by that. Sure. I also think there's a little bit of like you have a brother, Spence, like how this goes. When it's your sibling, when you're like close to the person, you can sort of, how to really get to them. Like, the stuff that will really hurt them if you say it, right? How to really get under their skin. How the sausage was made on things, like, their deepest, darkest secrets, if you will. You're super close to it. And it's like, I can talk bad about my family member and say like, well, hey, he's this. But as soon as somebody else does, it's like, well, hey, come on, that's not. And that's exactly what happens. Because to your point, as soon as the national media says like, as soon as somebody nationally would say like Darius Garland sucks this time of year, if that were ever to be something that was said, there'd be like local people jumping in like, hey, come on, man. Like, he's not that bad. Like, they would defend him. So I think that's a kind of what happens. It's like that little brother, big brother syndrome thing that kind of goes on where you're ready to defend you're like ready to defend and cape for your guy when somebody else is talking bad about them. But you also know their inner their inner thoughts and feelings and everything. And so you are so close to it that it's easy for you to be like, well, hey, this guy just, he can't cut at this time of year, time to move on. So I think that's kind of what happens with this, but you know how I feel about Darius. And I do think he still is an important piece of what this team wants to do, which is why both of us, I think, have focused our attention on if they're going to make a move, it probably centers around Jarrett Allen first and foremost, because he seems like the one that's not quite the fit for the style of basketball that the Cavs want to play.
It's a really good explanation. I never thought of it from that way. If they were crapping on him, then they would be the first of their defense, but they're the ones that can say the bad stuff about him. I like that. And maybe it's a motivational tool in their eyes too.
Yeah.
But some people are just downright mean, and I don't understand the anger. Even I understand it like the week of, like when it happens week of,
for sure.
Because everyone's going to get emotional. We got emotional. We talked about that stuff. But when you get further and further away from it and you actually don't make decisions with your heart and use your brain, then you have to think of it from that lens. And I disagree with you, stubborn and resilient, but thank you for the participation. If you go back
he says Garland has to be traded. Yeah.
Well, no, not even just that.
Oh,
I'm just talking about you being the realist. If you go and listen if you go and listen to our game 4 from when I was in Indiana and I traveled to cover the team, sir, you would hear how realistic I was. I was ripping that team to shreds.
Yeah.
And I still ripped that team to shreds about how they finished the year. And you can go back if you want to our old clip from when Koby Altman talked at the end of the season. And we talked up and down about how they need to stop BSing everybody. But you don't have to go strictly down that dark tunnel, man. Like, come on,
he said, you see my name. I'm stubborn. I love it. Stubborn and resilient. We appreciate you jumping in with us this morning, man. This has been fun. I need stubborn. You know what I really need? I need stubborn and resilient to jump in the comment section at the Locked On Browns podcast because I got people calling me all sorts of things because they think I'm a Shedeur Sanders hater, and I'm not a Shedeur Sanders hater. It is wild, some of the stuff that I get in the comment section there. So I need somebody to defend my honor in that comment section. Stubborners. Anyway, continue, Spence. That's a complete aside to this conversation.
No, that's fine. If Shedeur stuff gets ratings, right? So we get that on the show. We can put that in a. We can put
His
that
name
in a
has
clip.
been mentioned.
We can put that in a YouTube short and then get 10,000 views.
Yeah,
because
there
that
we go.
guy is all over the place. Go Brownies, by the way. But I think that's a really good point on your part, though, about the little brother, big brother dynamic. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think you're just so close to it that you feel like you can say what you want, and I think that's kind of what goes on here, and somewhat to a detriment too, because I know Darius hears it. I mean, he talked last year about like he heard the commentary and he's ready to. He said that at media day last year. So, man, like it's an interesting situation. You and I are both to clarify this again. You and I are both on the same page that like. We think Darius still fits the overarching goal of this team and what they want to do. Is it unfortunate that at the most important time of the year, he's been either injured or the remnants of an injury have hindered his play? Yes, but I'm not ruling out that he can't do what we see him do in the regular season in the postseason just yet. So I'm willing to see what it looks like with Darius. And I think Jarrett is the weaker link in this equation if you're trying to make a trade. That doesn't mean, by the way, to like what you were saying, that doesn't mean he's not a well-respected center around the league and that he still shouldn't garner something valuable in return, which we have hit on and said you can't just trade him to trade him. You got to get what his value is. And I don't think Koby Altman would do that anyway. But definitely, like if we're talking about making changes, I think it starts with Jarrett Allen, and they won't just pull the trigger because they think it's time to move on from him. Like I think that's the hard thing is I think that fans and rightfully like they're frustrated. They're frustrated by how the season ended, how it came up short yet again. And so I understand where this comes from. But it gets to this point where because we're so close to the situation and because we've seen these guys up close and personal for several years, that it just becomes this like convincing yourself that you have to move on from one of them and change something up. But we never always, people sometimes forget to think about like the outcome of that and like what it doesn't just end at, well, we got to get this guy off the team. It has to be about getting something back that helps the team right now. And that's the piece that I think is sometimes missing when you go to the trade machine and just start to like throw things together to see if the money lines up, is you forget that what you get back in return matters just as much as maybe changing out Jared Allen from being part of this team. So that's the important thing to keep in mind as we talk through all these things. And obviously there'll be plenty more commentary on this in the weeks ahead, because there are going to be plenty of moves and things discussed and rumored and coming for not just the Cavs, but around the NBA.
And just a simple takeaway here, the future of this team hinges on a 25-year-old and a 23-year-old. So that is also the thing that I look at. And the expectations these days are so much high. I feel like external expectations have increased like tenfold over the last like decade because of social media and because of that stuff. And I feel like it also has affected front office decision-making even as well, as you see the life on a coach, including former coach of the years, is like 2.5, 3 years now.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's gotten wild, man. I mean, we just saw it too with Coach Tibbs getting the can. And
How surprised were you by that? How surprised were you by that?
Not very, because I think, first of all, as I tweeted out, 5 years in today's day and age of the NBA is like 15. And he did have quite a bit of a time turning that around.
Yeah.
That move was very much so like the Cavs
last year,
with JB. Yeah.
So what I don't. So here's the thing. I didn't find it surprising because I thought like if we all assumed it was going to be Knicks Celtics like it turned out to be, and we all kind of figured like the Celtics will win that series. And so my thought process was like, if they come up short in the second round again, Tibbs is getting fired, especially after some of the turmoil from the regular season where his players were talking about this idea that, hey, we think maybe we played too many minutes. Like when that became a topic on top of like they're probably not going to make it as far in the playoffs as they want to, I figured he might get fired. Now, once they beat the Celtics, I thought, okay, maybe that changes the equation a little bit. Maybe that gives him a chance to stay. But you're right, man. Like 5 years is a lifetime in the NBA these days. Like these coaches are getting let go of quicker than ever, and it does kind of feel like there was just. I do think like the thing that did him in, I think, was the fact that his players so vocally talked about like the minutes thing, and they felt like they're just overworked. And I think that they like that says like GMs will always lean into what their players feel over coaches at the end of the day.
They do. No, and I think that is really important as well. And you can't really – someone's got to fall on the sword. And unfortunately, if Leon Rose and them are in control, then they're not going to can themselves. They're not going to say, oh, we paid OG Anunoby $212 million. We're not going to talk about a mistake that we made potentially by trading 5 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, which, by the way, I think that's a lot to give up. To try and mirror the team that you did beat. You did beat the Celtics. Like, let's not say anything there. I mean, but I think that it's also smart on New York's part because they're not falling, quote unquote, falling for it. Jason Tatum's out of the rest of the series. Yeah. And then, you figure evaluating a team has to be realistic. It's tough. I don't envy a lot of these decision makers because there's so many different things that happen. I don't envy the Cavs trying to evaluate that series because, again, people don't want to hear it and they're tired of hearing it, but I'm going to keep repeating it because it's the truth. Darius Garland was not 100%. Evan Mobley was not 100%. Donovan Mitchell sure as hell was not 100%. And DeAndre Hunter had 4 fingers. So listen, man, be as mad as you want to be, but just at least keep that in the back of your mind. And just because you're mad doesn't change the truth for that.
So speaking of the Knicks job, I know Johnnie Bryant's been like. By the way,
we didn't even get to the topic till the 40-minute mark.
It's fine. I really don't mind because we were having good conversations. But first of all, how the hell was Kenny Atkinson how did he have the second best odds? Did you see this? Did you see the Bovada odds and Kenny Atkinson was number 2?
The books are just trying to just scrape your money away from you. Do not fall into that trap.
I don't understand how Kenny Atkinson was number 2 on that list of odds. Like, what did they think the Cavs are going to fire Kenny Atkinson and like hire Johnnie Bryant instead to like keep him there and just let Kenny Atkinson? Like Kenny Atkinson did some brilliant things this offseason. That made no sense. I thought for a second I was getting like duped by a fake tweet or something like that. I don't know. It was crazy. I couldn't believe I saw that. But Johnnie Bryant is in the mix for that job. Mm-hmm. I do want to. We obviously got to talk about Jordan Ott going to the Suns. We'll hit on that here in a second. Yeah. But Do you think Johnnie Bryant ends up being the guy that lands that Knicks job, or do you think there's somebody else in mind? Because we talked about this off the air, but I do think the Knicks are looking like big splash hire. That feels like what their next move is going to be.
Yeah, it feels like Jay Wright type of hire thing going on. But I'll tell you what, like, so I spoke to, a couple of people close to the team, and they feel like Johnny's gonna get an interview. Like you'd have to imagine that Johnny gets an interview because he's formerly on staff there, and the front office really loves him. So that's going to happen probably. I don't know if he gets the job just because New York's gonna try to be New York. I don't know if like what I'm saying.
I know Jay Wright's name has been out there,
and also, if you're singularly focused on a championship, do you hire a rookie head coach? That's the other thing. I'm reading in between the tea leaves on the message there, and I don't know who that screams for a hire. I certainly am pulling for Johnnie Bryant. I think the organization, the Cavs, that is, definitely want Johnny back. They're going to have to already replace Jordan Ott, and again, we're going to get there. But the sense is he's definitely going to get an interview with New York, and
for sure.
From there, you figure out who he's up against and who New York values as singularly focused on a championship. And I love the wording in that, by the way, because Tibbs just wasn't trying to win a championship. He was just trying to go out there and win.
He was singularly focused on playing his guys for as many minutes as possible. That's all he cared about.
I saw a tweet that said, like, Tibbs is going to go home and toss the Frisbee around with his dogs for 40 minutes, and I laughed so hard. It's like he's going to make his dogs run around for 40 minutes.
For 40 minutes. He's got no one else to coach right now.
Hey,
That's
the minutes police got him in custody. I'm not going to lie, after everybody was talking about that stuff, and it ended up being true.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I believe that's what did him in ultimately. Yeah. It'll be interesting to monitor the Johnnie Bryant situation. We know his relationship with Donovan is a good one. Part of the reason why he's here. And, I'm sure they'd love to keep him, like you said.
Tibbs is old school, but he got fired, man.
Yeah, it did get him fired in the end. Like, the NBA is just different now. So, here's what I'll say. So Jordan Ott goes to the Suns, and first of all, you will never convince me that this wasn't Matt Ishbia trolling Dan Gilbert, where he like his two top candidates were Johnnie Bryant and Jordan Ott, and he interviewed both, and then he settles on Jordan Ott, and I found that interesting. I think it's a good hire because I think Jordan Ott's a good coach. Now, what's been reported is that Jordan had a big hand in like helping Evan Mobley and like his development this year, him take that leap that he did this year. I actually think, and I'm not going to sit here and like make a big deal out of an assistant coach, like now the team's screwed. I'm not going to do that. That would be a hot take of all hot takes. But I do think like losing Jordan Ott has a bigger impact than we might realize because of Evan Mobley's development. Like Kobe talks so much about that, right? He says that's the thing that of why they believe they can get over that hump in the postseason is because he's going to continue to take steps. If you lose the coach who is responsible for that, like you got to think it has a little bit of an impact. Not saying he still can't take that leap, but I like that if an organization is preaching how much they prioritize development, coaching matters in those instances. And so losing a guy from your staff in Jordan Ott is going to be a little bit of a blow. I don't think it does the Cavs in by any stretch. I think they're going to be fine. And Kenny Atkinson is great and brilliant in his own right. But I do think that that's a little bit of a blow to just this staff and the things they're trying to accomplish. And we'll see what impact that has on Evan Mobley next year and who sort of takes that challenge on of being his more, sort of overseeing the architect of him taking that next step, if you will. And
he had a good role too in helping DG along. And listen, man, like congrats to Jo. We never really got the chance to say it. Like head coach in the NBA is a big, big deal. And gonna miss him, at Cleveland Clinic Courts. Always see him jogging along with Trevor Hendry up and down the road.
Him. The last day we were there, we saw him.
Yep. He's a good guy. Got to know him just a little bit, obviously, last summer league. He's only been here for one season. So, we talked to him over in Vegas, and good dude, knows his stuff for sure. And Suns should love it. I mean, the report was that Devin Booker's the one that signed off on that hire. So clearly has a good basketball mind, X's and O's type of hire probably in the eyes of Phoenix. And there's probably a little bit of something there between Matt Ishbia and the Dan Gilbert rivalry for sure. But Jo absolutely knows what he's talking about and what he's doing. So the members of the organization are very happy for him. And It should be. It's a
Yeah.
big deal being a head coach of an NBA team. That's huge, and hopefully he doesn't get a dramatic first year. Hopefully Phoenix figures out this Kevin Durant stuff because that KD's probably going to get dealt somewhere. But yeah, couldn't be happier for Jo. And with Johnnie Bryant again, they're going to be monitoring it. Probably going to get interviewed by the Knicks, and he'll probably be in that final running. I don't know if he ends up getting the job, but if Johnny gets back with the Cavs, though, that's a very good thing because obviously Donovan Mitchell's right-hand man, but also somebody that's really good as far as just connecting with players and does a lot of work for them. And we see him in pregame warmups all the time doing stuff. So
for sure. I've talked to him a couple times in pregame warmups. He's an awesome dude. And yeah, like the Ott thing, it's we'll see how they sort of replace him, what that looks like. But certainly deserving. And, it's a testament to Kenny Atkinson and what he accomplished in this first year when other teams want to take your coaches. And the fact that Devin Booker signed off on it was a big deal too. Like that speaks to the type of coach and like the impression that he made. And it certainly feels like they feel like they got a good one. I would tend to agree. There's been a lot of good things said about him in the last 24 to 48 hours or so, in terms of like the basketball mind that he is. So it'll be interesting to watch him from a distance. But, yeah, man, how quickly, if Johnnie Bryant gets the Knicks job, Spence, how quickly do the Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks rumors start back up?
Oh, my gosh, immediately. Immediately. You know it. And shoot, like, I hate my life. I didn't even think about that from that lens.
I'm telling you, you're right, though. The second it happens, it's going to be like,
the minute,
hey, trade him to the Knicks. We'll take Cat and all these different things, which I think Cat is the total opposite of the player that you want if you're talking about guys who are quote unquote tough enough in the playoffs. So anyway, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Stubborn and resilient. He gets another shout out today because he was all up in our mentions, our comment section today, chiming in on the show. We appreciate it.
I don't know if this guy likes anybody in sports. He's been just trashing everybody on the way down.
This is a good comment, by the way. Ishbia has new owner syndrome. He came in and was like, I'm going to make a big splash. I'm going to build my own big three. And then that big three was awful together. And the Suns won nothing. And it's like now he's like pivoting to, I guess I'm new to this. I got to figure out like how to win in this sport in the year 2025 because I can't just do the old school way of like, let's get the three best players that we think are out there on the market and pair them together. It doesn't work like that anymore there, Matt Ishbia. But he's trolling Dan Gilbert in the process. So anyway, we appreciate you, Stubborn and Resilient. We appreciate all the people who commented, jumped in, participated throughout the show. And of course, we appreciate those of you who watch every week, who are subscribed already to the Cavaliers on SI YouTube channel where you can watch this show. You can also find the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. But please, if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel. We are constantly trying to post stuff over there. We do at least one podcast episode a week. I'm sure there'll be weeks, especially in the offseason, where we maybe do two, depending on like what news comes down, if there's anything big that happens. So we'll be sure to do that for you. We'll have more content coming over there for you. And we appreciate your support, as always, with the Cleveland Cavaliers on SI. And, of course, this podcast, Courtside with the Cavs on SI. Spence, I'll let you go play some more golf, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, man. We'll do it again next week. Until then, have a great weekend, Cleveland, and we will talk to you next week with another episode of Courtside with the Cavs on SI.